G'day. I honestly hope you will take the time to watch this video. I understand it's a little bit long, and in today's society we are just so busy. It's very hard to find an hour or so to spare to watch a YouTube video. What with all the Netflix that we've got to catch up with, and the video games we have to play, and the sporting events we have to watch, and all the alcohol we have to drink down at the pub with our mates. You know, it's very hard to find an hour or so spare to watch a YouTube video. And we're also open-minded and intellectually honest that we already know everything anyway, so it's probably pointless to even take the time to watch this video, because like I said, our minds are so open and we're so intellectually honest that we already know everything. But I'll put it up there anyway. My fingers are crossed. I really sincerely hope that you will watch it. I think it's got plenty of really good information in it. In fact, I will be so bold as to claim that it is undebunkable. And I'll also be so bold as to claim that some of you will turn this video off very early on in the piece, swear at the screen, probably swear at me, call me all kinds of names, and then get back to your busy life of Netflixing and sport watching and piss drinking and video gaming and all that, because, you know, you already know everything anyway, don't you? Okay, all I can do is put it up and hope sincerely that you will watch it and take it in, because, yeah, well, I think it's undebunkable. Anyway, the first part of the video comes straight from the horse's mouth, and the second part of the video is just a really good presentation that, like I said, I think you'll enjoy, unless, of course, you're one of those really super open-minded, intellectually honest people who already know everything. Anyway, let's give it a go. Here it is. Cheerio. Good luck.
This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.
The derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model. In the introduction, they flat out say right here, this report documents the derivation, which means the origin, and the definition of linear aircraft model for a rigid aircraft of constant mass flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Everybody see that? Derivation means the origin. Definition means this is how it's defined. This is how it works. So they're talking about the equations, and you want to talk about the calculus and trig this thing gets into. The equations are based on these airplanes flying over a non-rotating flat Earth. Question: why would this be in any technical manual of anybody if it doesn't exist? I mean, think about it. They claim the Coriolis effect, that snipers have to calculate the spinning of the Earth, the Coriolis effect, when they're shooting at, 1,000-yard shot or something. Yet they don't have to for Mach 1, 2, 3, 4 aircraft. You don't have to calculate the spin. No. This is just about, these planes fly over non-rotating flat Earth. So, well, Pastor Dean, this is what I heard. Oh, well, they're just doing that to simplify the equations. Oh, really? I'm sorry. I didn't know that NASA rocket scientists and MIT mathematicians couldn't factor in 8 inches per mile squared. I'm sorry, they have to simplify the math. Maybe they missed a class at MIT or something. I don't know. But this is crazy. Now, you can try to dismiss this if you want to, but it's also in the conclusion, the concluding remarks of the report and all the math and the equations. Look at that. This report derives and defines a set linearized system matrices for rigid aircraft of constant mass flying in a stationary atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Let's keep going here. There's your definition of derivation: obtaining or developing something from a source of origin. Why would you develop the equations for aircraft to fly over something that doesn't exist. Oh, let's factor in the unicorn equation, just in case, the Pegasus, the flying horse equation. So, yeah. No, they're telling you it exists. Definition, of course, is a statement of the exact meaning of something. Think about that. The Central Intelligence Agency. Declassified document that we stole from the Russians from 1948. What's that? Yes, you will. You notice that. Sanitized, yes. Why would you sanitize scientific information about, look at this, this is what this one's about, scientific Earth measurements. Why would you redact anything concerning the true scientific facts of the Earth? I wanted you to see that scientific measurements of the Earth, June 1948. It was originally in the Russian language. This is the translated thing. Date distributed, July 1949, number of pages 19. Just so you can see, here's getting into it here. Now, notice it says, the paper says, outer gravitational field and shape of the physical surface of the Earth. Gives this guy's name, some Russian guy, Center Science Research, Institute for Geodetics, Aerial Surveying and Cartography, Moscow. Everybody see that? All right. You can go through this entire document if you want to. I'm just pulling out something that I found very interesting in 1948 from Russian scientists that was classified. They stated here that where it is not determinable at all of the points of space without the knowledge of the shape of the Earth, but since the shape of the Earth is not known. I'm not going to read all this, because if I read all this today, we'd be here for a long time. In fact, I cut out stuff. I just wanted you to see that a Russian scientific paper that was classified in 1948 states the shape of the Earth is not known. Now, let me remind you that we are always told, oh, we've known the shape of the Earth since 300 BC. How did Russian scientists, and let me just say that Russian scientists are not stupid people. In fact, reading through their documents, they seem to be more honest with themselves than a lot of American scientists. All right, so Russian documents, CIA documents, declassified. Let's look at it. We're going to go down through some now here. I'm going to try to go pretty fast. This is the Army Research Laboratory. Notice every time when you see .mil, whenever you see .mil, the only people that can have .mil, military. This is the Army's Research Laboratory. Beacon position and altitude navigation aided by magnetometer. I'm not going to try to pronounce those people's names. You can see the document prepared by the University of Delaware, Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering, under contract to the U.S. government. I guess these people are dummies, right? They're stupid, right? This tells you who they are. I'm not going to get into all that, but this tells you the PhDs and the people who were assisting this study. And here we find something. Problem formulation, coordinate systems. The motion of an object usually described by rigid body equations of motion derived from Newton's laws. This section summarizes and notates three kinds of coordinate systems. The first is the Earth-fixed coordinate system, which is fixed to the Earth with a flat Earth assumption. Okay, now remember, we're talking about beacons for aircraft, and aircraft flying, moving, and we're talking about stuff that's moving. Why would you assume, first of all, why would you use the term Earth-fixed? I'll deal with that in a second. And a flat Earth assumption. An assumption means something that is just known to be true. It's just assumed because it is known. Here we go. This is a different one. Everybody see where this came from? NASA.gov. You could interchange CIA.gov, NASA.gov, it's all the same. Okay? They work together. In fact, I believe that all high-level NASA people are spooks, is what I believe. All right? Here we have the singular arc time optimal climb trajectory of aircraft in a two-dimensional wind field. Oh, Lord. These guys. All right? NASA research, smart people, are rocket scientists. Everybody said, I'm not a rocket scientist. Well, these are. All right. So this document goes on to say, in our minimum time to climb problem, the aircraft is modeled as a point mass and the flight trajectory is strictly confined in a vertical plane on a non-rotating flat Earth. Do you see that? Does everybody see that? And then they've got this nice little equation here. Thus, the pertinent equations of motion for the problem are defined in its the state variable form as, and then they give you the math. Wait a minute, is this unicorn math? Is this Thor hammer math? Wait a minute, no, it's flat, whoa, what, flat, non-rotating flat Earth math. I'm sorry. Could we just substitute Pegasus, unicorns? No, exactly. Let's keep going. Here, let's back up a little time. Everybody see this? NASA technical memorandum. Where'd it come from? NASA.gov, right? Declassified. Freedom of Information Act tells you all about it. Determination of angles of attack and side slip from radar data and the roll stabilized platform. Langley Research Center. What's in Langley? Virginia? Yeah, CIA headquarters, exactly. Also the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, Washington, D.C. Wait a minute, I thought they were in Florida and Houston, Texas. Oh, that's right. I'm sure they have an office. All right, let's keep going here. Here's the abstract. NASA Langley Research Center, technical memorandum, blah, blah, blah. Here is in the abstract. Basically what they're describing this manual is all about. This is a summary of it. Here's what they say. Equations for angles of attack and side slip relative to both rolling and non-rolling body axis system are derived for a flight vehicle for which radar and gyroscope attitude data are available. The method is limited, however, to application where a flat, non-rotating Earth may be assumed. The application for this whole thing has to be based on a flat, non-rotating Earth. Wait a minute, how many documents are we into here? I'm going to read that again. Equations for angles of attack, side slip relative to both rolling and non-rolling body axis system are derived for a flight vehicle. So we're talking about stuff that flies. And for which radar and gyroscope attitude data are available. The method is limited, however, to application where a flat, non-rotating Earth may be assumed. To say that the method is limited to a flat, non-rotating Earth means it does not work for a spherical Earth. This is interesting because he talks about, it gives you this little frame reference. Look at north, south, east, west, right? And they're telling you that, again, that represents the Earth fixed axis system. Everybody see that, right there? The radar provides range, azimuth, and elevation data from radar site to the vehicle throughout flight. So we're talking about stuff happening throughout flight, right? The data in conjunction with wind data can be easily converted to pitch, blah, 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 flight path angles. It is assumed herein that the Earth is represented as a flat and non-rotating reference frame. Well, why do I say Earth fixed? Isn't it supposed to be spinning, tilted, orbiting, flying through the universe? Yet the stars never change in the sky, right? The night sky. But yet we're spinning, flying, orbiting. Millions of miles. Been doing it for thousands of years. Nothing in the night sky ever changes. They know. Come on, they know. It is assumed herein that the Earth is represented as a flat, non-rotating reference frame. Yet they're going to tell us snipers have to adjust for shooting a 1,000-yard shot that takes about 2 seconds, maybe less than that. But you don't have to calculate the Earth's spin for an aircraft, for a helicopter, a drone. The space shuttle, I'll show you that in a minute too. Let's keep going. Here it is. Notice it says, also by definition, the X and Z plane will be vertical, perpendicular to the horizontal plane of the Earth at all times. The horizontal plane of the Earth at all times. Now, here's a doctoral dissertation by a PhD candidate that became part of this European Control Conference. In fact, I guess he graduated, but this doctoral dissertation that he began to speak to, I guess, the European Space Agency or whatever, a new path planner based on flatness approach, application to an atmosphere reentry mission. This was designed for the space shuttle, quote, reentry. And it's funny, they put orbit and reentry and stuff like that into quotations. And I'll explain all that next week. We'll get into that next week. But notice the outline of his doctoral dissertation, statement of guidance problem. Why would you have a guidance problem? Well, if you're basing stuff on a spherical Earth and it's really flat, then you're going to have a guidance problem. Right? So this guy comes along and goes, you know what? We got to get back to a flatness approach. I'm not making this up. Right? Flatness-based trajectory planning. Here we go. He's talking about for this little vehicle right here. And we'll keep going. Notice he says model in flat Earth coordinates. Everybody see that? Again, this doesn't exist, right? Flat Earth doesn't exist, but we're going to have a model for it and all this unicorn math. Sprinkled with fairy dust. So this guy's doing a doctoral dissertation in this present time to help with guidance system of the shuttle, and now we have unmanned shuttle system. But he's doing this and saying we've had guidance problems, so we got to go to a flatness approach, to a flat Earth model. Now, I'm going to tell you, this guy's way smarter than me. I couldn't do this kind of math, not even in my dreams. Okay? But he does. And he says, guys, we need a flat Earth model. And here's the math for it. Shall we keep going? Notice this. Assumptions, meaning things we assume are true. Flat Earth. Coriolis and centrifugal forces neglected. Here's a doctoral candidate who graduated, got his PhD, becomes a speaker to the European Control Council, and he's telling them it's a flat Earth. We ignore Coriolis, meaning the spin of the Earth. It's completely ignored. Here's MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, the top technical school in the country. Or at least one of the top. I'm sure they argue among themselves who's the top. What's this? dspace.mit.edu. Right? Property-based system design method with application to targeting system for small unmanned vehicles. So this is a targeting system developed Massachusetts Institute of Technology, blah, blah, blah. Tells you who it is, the author of this. And then in the description it says 3 targeting methods were considered assuming a flat Earth. Whoa, 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 whoa. Why would an MIT professor, PhD, why would he assume the Earth is flat? The evaluation revealed a descending utility order, flat Earth, and range based upon the system's requirements. I mean, these and aeronautics and astronautics. Flat Earth assumption, mind-blowing. All right, let's get back to our documents, government documents here. Just wanted you to see MIT and other doctoral candidates and PhDs saying it's flat and it's not moving. Calculation of wind compensation for launching unguided rockets. So we're talking about rockets by Robert L. James Jr. and Ronald J. Harris, Langley Research Center, Langley, Virginia, Langley Field. I would say pretty important stuff, right? Right. But who reads this stuff? Who stays up all night and all day reading stuff? I do. All right, technical note. Here we go. Summary, method for calculating wind compensation for unguided missiles. It is derived from which has a greater degree of flexibility than previously proposed methods, blah, 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 and they get into it. So they're telling you, summary, here's what we're up to, trying to figure out how to guide rockets. Yes, sir. Linear aerodynamics, yes. Coefficients with respect to flow, incidence angles are used, launch angles for wind compensation. I mean, it's pretty serious stuff, right? I think you'd probably need to get it right. I know if I was their general or their boss, I'd say you guys better get it right. This stuff's expensive, so let's get it right.
Better work.
Right, it better work. Let's look at this. It says trajectory simulation incorporating the above requirements is presented in reference 8. In addition to the above requirements, this simulation assumes a vehicle with 6 degrees of freedom and aerodynamic symmetry and roll, and the missile position, again, space will deal with that. They don't even, it's not what they're talking about. What we think, what they've told us, and what they know space is, two different things. So when they say it, they don't mean what they've lied about. The missile position in space is computed relative to a flat, non-rotating Earth. April 1961, NASA technical document for calculating unguided missiles, not anything we're sending into space. Just unguided missiles like the V-2 was an unguided missile. Let's keep going here. Here's another one. Okay, completely different document. Where did it come from? NASA.gov, right? Unpublished preliminary data, atmospheric oscillations, tells you the people. Georgia Tech project. Georgia Tech, here we go, right? My wife's brother is a professor at Georgia Tech. He would be losing his mind if he heard this, but his own university has been part of this. Under contract, Georgia Tech project, contract, prepared National Aeronautics and Space Administration. So this was in conjunction with their engineers, Engineering Experiment Station, Georgia Institute of Technology, Atlanta, Georgia. Blah, blah, the requirements for additional copies. Talks about that, says the Department of Defense contractors must be established for DDC services or have their need to know certified by the cognizant military agency. So this was not to be passed around. This was need to know. All right. Georgia Tech project, just so you see it. Boom, boom, April 1965. Tells you the abstract, develop present theories of atmospheric oscillations. Blah, blah, blah. I don't have to. All right. A model frequently used is that of, everybody say it, flat, unrotating Earth. The most one can profitably simplify the problem is to consider the isothermal atmosphere, plane level surfaces, and a non-rotating Earth. NASA.gov. Now this is general equations of motion for a damaged asymmetric aircraft. So what they're trying to do is fix equations if a plane loses part of its wing or tail fin or whatever, how to compensate and all that stuff, right? So that's what this is about. And the technical manual gives you this stuff. The introduction, here's the introduction, right? Just so you know, it says, in order to analyze the dynamics of damaged aircraft, the dynamic equations of motion must properly reflect the underlying physics. Now, I want to say that again. I want everybody to pay close attention. They're telling you right here in the introduction of this, and they're showing you a damaged aircraft. They're saying, in order to analyze the dynamics of damaged aircraft and dynamic equations of motion must properly reflect the underlying physics. It must, what we're going to do here must reflect the true physics. Physics. People say, you don't understand physics. Okay, well, these people do. All right? Who are we talking about here? The American Institute of Aeronautics and Astronautics. And here's what they say. Rigid body equations of motion, reference to an arbitrary fixed point on the body. There are several approaches that can be used to develop the general equations of motion. The one selected here starts with Newton's laws applied to the collection of particles defining the rigid body. Any number of dynamics or physics books can serve as references. So they're saying the physics books can serve as references. I said, in this paper, the rigid body equations of motion over a flat, non-rotating Earth are developed. Why? Why? So you're telling me that the physics of a non-rotating flat Earth are the proper physics in a NASA document. Here we go. You can tell when they're older documents. atmospheric refraction errors for optical instrumentation. Fun reading, folks. I'm telling you, fun reading. There you have it. Tells you technical memorandum, blah, blah, blah. Same thing. Preliminary report. October. What do we got? See? We back it up. 1953. White Sands Proving Ground, La Cruces, New Mexico. Where's Area 51? It's in New Mexico, I know, but I don't know where. So, anyway, here we go. Look at this here. Just wanted you to see the signatures, real signatures. Dr. Fred Hansen, Dr. J.W. Molnar, or whatever. James C. McNatt, Lieutenant Colonel, United States Air Force. Thomas W. Morgan, Major, United States Air Force. Systems and Engineering Branch, Flight Determination Laboratory, White Sands Proving Ground. All here, right? Dr. So-and-so, Dr. So-and-so, General so-and-so. I guess they're stupid. This document was not to be seen. This document contains information affecting the national defense of the United States within the meaning of the espionage laws, Title 18 U.S.C., Sections 793 and 794. Its transmission or the revelation of its contents in any manner to an unauthorized person is prohibited by law. So this was classified in the 1950s. It's talking about basic equations for atmospheric refraction and all this stuff. It says, here, now I want to point this out. Present equations hold for any altitude. Everybody see that? I don't have time to read all of it. Present equations hold for any altitude. All right, let's see what they're talking about. Table of contents, introduction, validity of flat Earth assumption for atmospheric calculations. Validity. You know what validity means? Something that is a solid fact. Let me back up. Remember, present equations hold for any altitude. So some of this study of basic atmospheric equations, this is for any altitude. And this is the introduction. This is the table of contents. Introduction, the validity of flat Earth assumption for atmospheric calculations. If it wasn't flat, if the Earth was not flat, why would you start off a classified, under threat of law in the Espionage Act, why would you classify that? It's all here, folks. Introduction here says a comprehensive study of atmospheric refraction errors for optical instrumentation. What is it based on? Based on a flat Earth assumption, will be published subsequently. The relative mass of the atmosphere at any elevation angle is given approximately by the cosine of the elevation angle. I may be pronouncing some of this wrong, but listen, this relationship is correct for a flat Earth and a flat atmosphere. This relationship is correct for a flat Earth and a flat atmosphere. And they're going to publish these results. So we just saw one document say, this is the correct underlying physics, flat non-rotating Earth. We see this document right here say, this is correct for any altitude. Validity of flat Earth assumption. Validity. They're not saying, okay, see what some of them, this is what some of them say, that the flat Earth assumption is just to simplify things. But what this is saying is this so-called flat Earth assumption is valid. It's valid. Do you see it? Zoom in on it a little bit just so you see it. Validity of flat Earth assumption. Just so you know, the definition of validity. The quality of being logically or factually sound. Let's keep going here. Assumption. And anyway, let's just say that they didn't put in the validity. They just used the word flat earth assumption. You hear that a lot. Well, the assumption, a thing that is accepted as true or is certain to happen without proof. I mean, we don't even need proof of this anymore. This is what is assumed to be true by the scientific community, by the governments of the world. What's this one? This is NASA Technical Memorandum, NASA.gov, mathematical model of a CH-53 helicopter. You guys know a helicopter pilot, right? So here's the NASA manual on that. Ames Research Center, Moffett Field, California. Equations of motion. The helicopter equations of motion are given in body axes with respect to a flat, non-rotating Earth. Meaning the helicopter takes off, it doesn't have to worry about the Earth spinning below it. Here's another one, vision-based mobile target geolocalization and target discrimination using Bayes detection theory. Oh, it's a mouthful, right? This is a more modern, I can't remember the year on this one, but anyway, you see this is the Academy Center for the United States Air Force, U.S. Air Force Academy, UAS research, and this is for targeting for unmanned vehicle, aerial vehicles targeting manual. It says the objective of geolocalization problem is to estimate range to target, which can be estimated using the flat Earth model shown in Figure 2, which would be this little thing right here. No curve. Do you notice? The flat Earth model. And your little aerial craft locating a target. Now, if this line was curved here, as it does, 8 inches per mile square, that line is going to intersect at a different point. I'm not a geometry teacher, but that I know. Maybe it's just from golf, right? Flat Earth model, range estimation using flat Earth assumption. Unmanned vehicle targeting manual from ResearchGate, but of course we showed you, United States Air Force Academy. Does everybody see that? Look at this. A key element in determining point-to-point acoustic transmission is modeling the variation of effective speed and sound through the lower atmosphere. Oh, did I forget this? Oh, yeah. Army Research Laboratory. This is another one, calculating low atmosphere profiles, sound speed at night. So calculating sound speed, all right? Pretty important stuff. It says to briefly examine short-range acoustic attenuation at night, we use low atmosphere profiles of wind speed, temperature, relative humidity, shown before as input to a flat Earth non-turbulent acoustic propagation model called the Windows Version Scanning Fast Field Program. Propagation of electromagnetic fields over flat Earth. Army Manual, February 2001. You can say, oh, Pastor D, the 1950s stuff and the 1960s stuff, oh, they just didn't know. They've learned stuff since. Right? Nope. They tell you right here. And you go into the manual, here's the table of contents. It says comparison of principal fields from an ideal dipole oriented perpendicular to a horizontal and homogeneous flat Earth. Army Manual. They tell you right here, it's assumed that the transmitting antenna and target or receiver are located above but near the surface of a flat idealized Earth. Over and over again. I mean, I could do this. Guys, I could do, look, here's another. I even forgot. I thought we were at the end. Here's another one. Closed form solution for ballistic vehicle motion. Ballistic vehicle motion. A closed form solution is developed for the motion of a ballistic vehicle entering the atmosphere over a flat, non-rotating Earth. Frank J. Barbera, Cayman Sciences Corporation, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Closed form solution for ballistic vehicle motion. Meaning we got to know where this thing's going to come down. Payloads for spinning projectiles. Army. Think you need to know where artillery is going to land? Look here. Projectile flight dynamics. A 6 DOF rigid projectile model is employed to predict the dynamics of a projectile in flight. The assumption of these equations assume a flat Earth. These equations, a whole bunch of math we're going to do. BG Karpov experimental observations of dynamic behavior of liquid-filled shells. U.S. Army Ballistics Research Laboratory, Aberdeen Proving Ground, Maryland, August 1961 is a reference to this. But he says, and again, a projectile, you want to know where that artillery round is going to land. And what this study is, the one that has a solid explosive versus one that has a liquid payload. They're talking about chemical weapons or biological weapons. So they want to know, figure out the equations. So a 6 DOF rigid projectile model is employed to predict the dynamics of a projectile in flight. These equations assume a flat Earth. Again, why would you do unicorn math? Why would you do Thor hammer math if it don't exist? Why would you try to calculate ballistic missiles, unguided rockets, shuttle landings? Why would you base all your equations, all of your science on a flat Earth, non-rotating, non-moving, stationary atmosphere if it doesn't exist no more than a unicorn or Thor's hammer?
Hello, everyone. As pointed out by Owen Benjamin, I'm a bit dry and technical, and I will repeat myself often, but I hope that you can nevertheless enjoy this discussion. I can't promise that it'll be entertaining, but I can at least say that it will be sincere. I only have 45 minutes, and so I will speak fast. Flat Earth is the catalyst to break the chains that mentally, spiritually, physically, and scientifically bind humanity. We Flat Earthers aren't anti-science. We Flat Earthers are unashamed truth addicts trying to free science from lies, faith-based, globe religious zealotry, and the heliocentric nonsense that has bound it for generations. Scholastically speaking, I'm a fairly educated person. I graduated from college magna cum laude, and I took astronomy in college. I have a master's and a Juris Doctorate. Up until just a few years ago, I genuinely believed in the globe and considered space and astronomy essential for the well-educated man. I would say that I underwent a paradigm shift around 2008 when I came across Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. The symmetrical and free-fall collapse of World Trade Center Building 7, which was not hit by an airplane, is 100% proof that our government lied to us, and that none of our institutions are there to expose or protect us from this vile conspiracy that stretches across and controls many nations. Steel-constructed skyscrapers cannot collapse from small office fires symmetrically and at free-fall speeds. It's impossible. 9/11 proves that our government and its owners control the narrative, the media, the military, the police forces, and all other major institutions. Yes, the 9/11 conspiracy is indeed a frightening truth. Moreover, any supposed social contract we once had with our government ended on 9/11. The United States government was in the very least an accessory in this heinous crime, which was not only used as a pretext to murder millions, but also to deprive all Americans and future generations of liberty under the threat of a manufactured boogeyman. Despite my vehement distrust of the U.S. government, I somehow still considered NASA exempt from the corruption. That all changed when I read David McGowan's Wagging the Moon Doggy, which thoroughly debunked the Apollo moon missions. I loved space too. I really wanted to believe in NASA, but the evidence that NASA lied is indisputable. NASA is a criminal organization that steals $59 million per day under false pretense. Seriously, how can any intelligent person think that this is genuine footage of a spaceship in lunar orbit? NASA is a scam. In addition, any reverence I had for academia ended with Wagging the Moon Doggy, as no major institution has ever pointed out the blatant lie. The lunar lander is a piece of junk made from curtain rods, aluminum foil, tar paper, scotch tape, some useless, space-looking abstract art sculptures, and some very poor construction. Does that really look like a spaceship to you? Look at the astronauts suspended by wires. The wires are visible throughout the Apollo missions. Look at the telltale signs of 1960s movie backdrops used throughout all of the Apollo missions. Research how the inverse square law of light and how that proves the moon landings were fake. Then around April 2015, I had a larger paradigm shift. A friend of mine and a fellow NASA moon landings debunker, who many of you know as Jibby Jedi, sent me an email to check out a video by Mark Sargent. I was highly skeptical, but I soon realized that there was enough substance to the flat Earth that we needed a Socratic debate on the subject. Accordingly, I opened a debate on an internet forum where I invited flat earthers and globe earthers to present their best cases. At that time, I thought the flat Earth was a government-controlled psyop to discredit moon landing debunkers, and I wanted to save my fellow truth seekers from the government psyop. Wow, was I wrong. The flat Earth arguments were well-reasoned and substantial. Globe Earth arguments were circular, specious, and vacuous. I thought the globe advocates, whose numbers far outweighed the flat earthers, would destroy the flat earthers. But instead of presenting a strong case in favor of the official globe narrative, globe supporters relied on name-calling, fraudulent videos, feeble presuppositions, straw man arguments, conformity, and incessant appeals to authority. From the beginning, I heard the best case the globe had, and it was shockingly pathetic, and it still is. We already know that the evil cabal can get away with huge lies. 9/11, Gulf of Tonkin, and the phony moon landings prove that. But I want to talk to you about what I have termed institutionalized conformity. It is the top-down, systematic, institutional conditioning of humanity from cradle to grave, and it created the globe. Institutional conformity is founded on a blend of three elements: the knee-jerk Pavlovian response, group conformity, and the expert. These three elements have worked in tandem to force society into an unwitting love affair with the globe and space. Many of you are already familiar with the Pavlov's dogs experiment. Essentially, at the end of the 1800s, Ivan Pavlov was able to condition dogs to salivate every time a metronome was played. Pavlov did this by bringing out food while simultaneously playing a metronome. Only after a few repetitions, Pavlov removed the food, but the dogs would still salivate in response to just the sound stimulus. This is referred to as classic conditioning. Of course, we are not dogs, but to an extent, people can also be conditioned. Humanity has been conditioned to love space and the globe. That's a fact. You have seen the globe and other space images thousands of times in your life. In addition to loving space and the globe, you have been programmed to scoff at even the mere mention of the flat Earth through unrelenting, repeated conditioning since childhood in schooling, media, and entertainment. Although the narrative is changing from Columbus to ancient Greece, I was taught in elementary school that everyone knew Columbus was going to fall off the edge. But the smart Columbus knew better than the stupid flat earthers, and Columbus proved it was a globe. Even MTV's rebellious channel always started with the U.S. government's Apollo mission to the moon. How rebellious is that? The programming has been unrelenting and everywhere. Public schooling and the grading system were instrumental in creating your inflated globe ego and that conditioned response. But here's a question for you. How do you know when you're having a conditioned Pavlovian response? A Pavlovian response isn't based on reason or intellect. Instead, it triggers a knee-jerk emotional response. It makes you upset or happy in some inexplicable manner. Hopefully, by recognizing that you are having a Pavlovian response, you can set aside the conditioning and instead use your intellect and reason to investigate the flat Earth. Here's a hilarious television experiment that took place in a medical office. All of these people are actors except for the lady. Whenever the office buzzer rings, all of the actors stand up. Yes, I added the cartoon ball. It's like Pavlov's dogs, but here the group is establishing the norm. Understandably, the unaware lady quickly follows the group. That's expected, and I doubt any of us would have acted differently, as we often look to the group for information. It's called informational conformity. But what's so fascinating about this is that this lady, after all the actors leave, then teaches others who are also unaware to do the same and creates an entirely new group of conforming, unwitting people. None of the people standing up right now are actors, and yet they are all engaging in the same nonsense based solely on group and informational conformity. Comparably, relatively few people need to be in on the globe lie. Once the narrative has been initiated, which is then reinforced every day in school, in media, and entertainment for generations, nearly everyone will unquestioningly follow the group. They control nearly all of the inputs, and the system then becomes self-policing. It doesn't matter that no one in the group knows why they believe or act in a certain way. The narrative has already been set and is followed religiously by the group in lockstep. Conformists are rewarded and promoted, and nonconformists are ridiculed and demoted. That's why calling flat earthers names is so important to this control mechanism. But the globe needed one more key ingredient, and that's the expert. The Milgram experiment is a fascinating example of the power of institutionalized conformity. In this case, the oblivious person at the electric shock generator called the teacher. Remember, this teacher is the only person who isn't an actor. A learner is placed in a different room. Each time the learner makes a mistake in his responses, the so-called teacher is instructed to give an increasing electric shock to the learner. In a way, it reminds me of the grading system. Via a microphone, the teacher can hear the fake screams when the supposed electric shock is administered to the learner. What you're watching is a modern version that obtained the same results as the original Milgram experiment. There were 30 switches on the shock generator marked from 15 volts, slight shock, to 450 volts, danger, severe shock. 450 volts is at a fatal level. On purpose, the learner gave mainly wrong answers. And for each wrong response, the oblivious teacher gave the learner an electric shock, and the teacher could hear the screaming through the microphone. If the teacher refused to administer a shock, the expert in the lab coat next to the teacher would say something like, "Please continue," or "You have no other choice but to continue." After 15 shocks or so, the learner in the other room would go silent so as to create the illusion that the learner was unconscious, or worse. But the shocks continued. What's so damn disturbing is the fact that 65% of the teachers continued to the highest level of 450 volts, which was identified as danger severe shock. All of the teachers continued to 300 volts. Despite their morals, ordinary people are likely to follow orders given by an authority figure, the expert. Milgram summed up the experiment as follows. The legal and philosophic aspects of obedience are of enormous import, but they say very little about how most people behave in concrete situations. I set up a simple experiment at Yale University to test how much pain an ordinary citizen would inflict on another person simply because he was ordered by an experimental scientist. Stark authority was pitted against the subject's strongest moral imperatives against hurting others. And, with the subject's ears ringing with the screams of the victims, authority won more often than not. The extreme willingness of adults to go to almost any lengths on the command of an authority constitutes the chief finding of the study and the fact most urgently demanding explanation. Authority won more often than not. Remember that 65% of the participants thought they severely injured or killed the other person based only on the simple orders of the scientist with the white coat. That's the power of the expert. And that's why the cabal has created so many celebrity experts like Einstein, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye the Science Guy, Stephen Hawking, Elon Musk, and others. George Orwell spoke about the expert this way. It will be seen that my reasons for thinking that the earth is round are rather precarious ones. It does not rest on reasoning or on experiment, but on authority. Most people, if asked to prove that the earth is round, would not even bother to produce the rather weak arguments I have outlined above. They would start off by saying that everyone knows the earth to be round, and if pressed further, would become angry. This is a credulous age, and the burden of knowledge which we now have to carry is partly responsible. The power of institutionalized conformity is evident in the following example. In this video, you can hear the child proclaim that the so-called space rocket is actually falling down, as it truly is. Just listen.
It's drifting. That's bad.
It's doing good so far.
Is it? Is that what always happens? Does it always go like that?
Yep.
It looks bad to me.
Yep, I think that's it.
Rockets don't go to space. They arc and fall into the water, as you can see in numerous examples. The child gets it because he hasn't been programmed extensively enough to unquestioningly accept NASA. Instead, the adult won't allow himself to question his many years of space indoctrination, even though his eyes tell him otherwise. Here's from another video with a different child. The child keeps stating that the space shuttle rocket is going down, but the parent tries to explain it away as though the Earth is churning.
Peter, for Sandy, is it turning or is the Earth spinning?
A rainbow.
Sandy? It's not turning, the Earth is spinning. Sandy?
Already.
That's going straight up, it's just the Earth is turning. We're moving away from it.
Truly, the children were wiser than their parents, who refused to see the obvious. The children could easily recognize that the rocket is not going into space, but the parents would not allow themselves to question it. What do your eyes tell you? Just look at this space shuttle launch. Does any person here really think that this space shuttle is in space? It's laughable. Do you understand what I mean by institutionalized conformity and how powerful it is and how we need to be wary of it? I need you to set aside your Pavlovian response, your conditioning, your group conformity, your NASA and other proclaimed expert authority figures, and just use your intellect here today, as an objective, reasonable person should. Flat Earth is founded on observable, testable, and repeatable experiments that you can do yourself. Flat Earthers don't want group or informational conformity. We don't want you to appoint anyone as your expert. We want you to think for yourself and to test the flat Earth yourself, and then share your findings with the rest of us. That is the beauty of the flat Earth. Flat Earth usually begins with the globe curvature formula. At least that's where it started for me. According to the globe math, 8 inches per mile squared represents how much a distant object should be hidden below the horizon from a ground level view based on the official mathematical dimensions of the Earth, i.e. a ball Earth with a circumference of 24,901 miles. Under the globe, this is mathematically accurate for all observable distances. So, what's the alleged curvature drop at 6 miles under the globe? I hope everyone can do this now. Square the miles. 6 times 6 multiplied by 8 inches, which equals 288 inches. Divide by 12 to convert from inches to feet. In 6 miles, there should be a curvature drop of 24 feet. It gets exponentially worse for the globe. 8 miles distance, 43 feet should be hidden below the horizon. 10 miles, 67 feet. 20 miles, 266 feet. 50 miles, 1,666 feet. 100 miles distance, 6,667 feet should be hidden below the horizon. This massive curvature drop should be seen and experienced every day, but it isn't. And I will show you many examples unquestionably proving this curvature does not exist. But let's first talk about the horizon. If you know my channel, then you probably already know that the horizon test is my favorite proof of the flat Earth. It is so easy and so overlooked. Globe supporters and flat earthers have very different views of what the horizon is. Under the globe model, the horizon is a concrete and tangible physical barrier demarcating the point when distant objects are obscured by the curvature. Under the globe, the horizon could theoretically appear closer due to haze, miraging, waves, and swells, but the horizon could never extend further than that mathematical, physical Earth curve edge. On the other hand, flat earthers correctly recognize that the horizon is not tangible, but a matter of perspective, and thus the horizon rises with the observer, an impossibility under the globe. The fact that railroad tracks meet at the horizon proves the horizon is a matter of perspective. Of course, haze and poor viewing conditions reduce the distance to the apparent horizon, but so long as we have a nice clear day without miraging, we can test the globe horizon and determine its veracity. The globe fails miserably. The distance to the globe physical horizon is roughly 1.225 times the square root of the height of the observer. But you can also use a calculator. This globe curvature calculator calculates both the distance to the horizon and the amount that should be hidden behind the alleged globe curvature. Both of these calculations can prove the flat Earth. You've probably seen the 8 inches per mile squared curvature chart many times, but here's a quick distance to the horizon chart to help you get familiar with the numbers. For example, a person standing on a shore at 6 feet above the water should not see a horizon beyond a mere 3 miles under the globe model. That's definitely measurable if there was such a globe horizon. All the observer needs to prove the flat Earth is a pair of binoculars. But here's a clip where National Geographic was less than honest with its viewers. In this clip, National Geographic stated that because of the curvature of the Earth, that 1.5 stripes are hidden behind the curvature. If you're intelligent, you already caught the problem. The horizon is beyond the flag. Therefore, absolutely none of the flag can be hidden behind an alleged curvature. That's impossible. I hope you understand that. National Geographic went to that lake to prove the curvature, but instead proved that National Geographic is a purveyor of disinformation, and there are so many more like them. But let's begin with a positive, easy proof of the flat Earth using the horizon. This was my wife's video. We're looking at some footage filmed by Wide Awake at an observation height of 2.3 feet. At an observation height of 2.3 feet, the distance to the horizon under the globe model would be a maximum distance of 1.86 miles. That is very short. We are looking at the Bayport Channel entrance light. It was 3.49 miles away from the observer. According to the curvature calculator, only 1.8 feet should be hidden. Not a big deal, right? But remember that the horizon was supposed to be only 1.86 miles away, and that rack is 3.49 miles away. Does the globe model work here? Of course it doesn't. And here's the reason why I love these horizon distance experiments. The presupposing globe propagandist will tell you that the image of the horizon has jumped the curvature and you're staring at a mirage. Why is that explanation ridiculous? Because the entire rack is still there. Refraction cannot remove the bulge of water in front of the rack and then move the bulge many miles further away without affecting the rack. The entire rack cannot be a mirage since only 1.8 feet should have been hidden. So the globe propagandist wants you to think that the rack stayed in place unaffected while the water bulge selectively disappeared and then reappeared miles further away. They not only want you to believe in bendy water, they want you to believe that this bendy water is magic. I know it's a strong delusion, but please open your eyes. But it gets worse. Here's footage of another rack called Cutter Rock that was 11.24 miles away from my friend. According to the curvature calculator, 59 feet should have been hidden behind the globe. The top light on Cutter Rock is only 16 feet high. You shouldn't see the light whatsoever. Already the globe model fails. But let's look at the horizon distance. You can't see the horizon in this footage, but then Wide Awake was clever and took a time-lapse photo of Cutter Rock with a higher exposure. Here's the photo. What is that? The horizon is beyond Cutter Rock. Remember, the horizon was supposed to only be a maximum distance of 1.86 miles, and this photograph shows a horizon beyond 11.24 miles. Ouch. Now that hurts the globe. Here's another example. For this observation, BMLS B69 was at an elevation of 105 feet above the water. At an observation height of 105 feet, the globe horizon would have to be closer than 12.6 miles. There are 3 oil platforms. The first one was 11 miles away, the second was 22 miles away, and the third was 26.4 miles away. Based on the official dimensions of the globe, the horizon line should be in front of the second platform. In fact, the second platform should be hidden by 59 feet. The third platform should be almost entirely hidden by 129 feet. As you can see with your own eyes, the horizon, which was supposed to be under 12.6 miles, is not only beyond the second platform, the horizon is beyond the third platform, further than 26.4 miles. We know that none of the third platform is obstructed by the curvature as the horizon is beyond the platform. Are we to believe that the bulge of water selectively disappeared from in front of the second platform where it was supposed to be hiding 59 feet, and then the bulge of water reappeared well beyond the third platform, and this disappearing and reappearing magic effect happened all without affecting the 2 platforms themselves? For this next test, BMLS B69 brought his camera down to just 1 foot off of the water. At 1 foot, the distance to the horizon of the globe must be closer than 1.2 miles. There were 2 platforms visible. The closer one on the right is Platform Hill House at 6.21 miles away. The further one on the left was Platform Habitat. It was 9.41 miles away. Please raise your hand if you see the problem. Where is the horizon line? Remember, the horizon was only supposed to be 1.2 miles away, and the horizon is not only past the first platform at 6.21 miles, it is well beyond the second platform, beyond 9.41 miles. Using this example, I want to teach you how the apparent horizon distance can be used to determine the minimum size of the globe if we did indeed live on a globe. Let's assume that the horizon in this example is at least 10 miles away. Obviously, it's further, but 10 miles is fine. But is it possible that no one ever thought to measure the size of the Earth by measuring the distance to the horizon? It seems so basic. You believe in a ball? Well, go out and measure it. Where is my Nobel Prize for what should be elementary knowledge? Here's the theoretical radius of the Earth formula using the Pythagorean theorem, and it can be used for any horizon observation. I don't want to bore you with all the calculations, but at an observation height of 1 foot and a horizon at least 10 miles away, the globe would have to have a radius of 264,000 miles. That's a radius 67 times larger than the alleged size of the globe Earth. I think this disposes of the big Earth theory. I asked Nathan Oakley from the Flat Earth Debate channel to share his understanding of the horizon issue, and this was his response.
Hello, Dallas. The horizon would be most accurately described as an arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground. However, if you are a fundamentalist religious zealot with a globe belief, well then that's not an arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground. It is in fact the reified edge of a sphere world based on the radius value. An R value that is reified into existence by way of a begging the question, proof of nothing, perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator that takes an arbitrary position where the sky appears to meet the ground and turns it into the reified edge of a sphere world. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you in Flat Earth Debate.
For this first test of mine, my wife was carrying a mirror at the opposite end of a reservoir reflecting the sunlight. From 6.3 miles away, I watched my wife place the mirror into the water. However, under the globe model, my wife should have been entirely obstructed by the curvature with a target hidden height over 12 feet. Obviously, the globe fails. Do you see any visible signs that my wife is a mirage, or that a 12-foot section hopped over the curvature to present a false flat Earth? There is no distortion accounting for this selective imaginary curvature hopping. These clips are from two separate experiments from opposite ends of Utah Lake. The first test was in May, and the second was in freezing conditions in December. In both cases, the spotlight was 7.53 miles away from me, and the camera height was only 2.54 feet above the water. In both cases, my wife's spotlight should have been hidden 21 feet below the horizon. Instead, you can see the spotlight placed at the water or ice edge. There is absolutely no curvature in these tests, and the symmetry of the reflection of lights belies the nonsense curvature hopping refraction claim. I don't show this video much, but this was a test I conducted with my family at the Bonneville Salt Flats. I placed my camera at 2.7 feet and filmed my wife drive away on the salt flats. Even with a mirage, I filmed my wife drive 6.6 miles away. The vanish had been entirely hidden with a target hidden height of 14 feet. Unfortunately, this test ended in disaster. My wife got stuck in the middle of nowhere, and I was 6.6 miles away from her and also in the middle of nowhere. The tow bill was $800, and it wasn't covered by roadside assistance. Flat Earth testing does not pay very well, and I learned a valuable lesson about the Bonneville Salt Flats. It can swallow your car. Observable Reality has obtained some amazing footage of our flat Earth and is known for getting his camera very low. In this case, his camera was only 0.6 feet off of the water, and he filmed a dam 7.7 miles away. The dam is only 14 feet high. Under the globe Earth's dimensions, 30 feet should be hidden. Obviously, the dam is visible, and the globe fails again to simple and repeatable experimentation that you can do yourself. Notice also that the Bridge Peninsula on the right was only 3.3 miles away from the camera, but the globe horizon was supposed to be 0.95 miles away. The horizon is well beyond 3.3 miles, again proving the globe false. The next two experiments were conducted by Flat Earth Reality explorers in California. The mirror was 13.8 miles away from the camera, which was at a height of 5 feet. Under the globe model, 82 feet should have been hidden below the horizon. Obviously, nothing is missing behind a purported curvature. Sunlight reflection off a mirror at 13.8 miles should not wrap around a ball. But this is my all-time favorite test conducted by Flat Earth reality explorers. This mirror flash experiment was conducted at the Salton Sea at opposite sides at a whopping distance of 18 miles. As you can see here, they were able to see and film the reflection of the mirror that was 18 miles away from the camera. 155 feet should have been hidden. Under the globe model, you'd have to be standing on this 150-foot minaret to see a mirror flash at a distance of 18 miles. That experiment absolutely destroys the globe myth and should cause any thinking independent person to conduct their own investigation. This next laser test was conducted in Italy by Romanians. The distance was 9.4 miles, the laser height was 6.6 feet, and the camera height was 2 feet off of the water. 39 feet should be hidden behind the curvature, but the camera filmed the source of the laser at 6.6 feet above the water in defiance of the globe. This next test is from D. Marble. In this case, the person holding the laser was at 7 feet, shooting the laser at a distance of 10 miles. At 10 miles, under the globe model, the observer would have to be at a height of 30 feet in order to see the laser source. Instead, you can see the source of the laser at just inches above the water. For this test, Dr. John D., who has a PhD, confirmed with the laser that over a distance of 9.5 miles, there's absolutely no curvature. 39 feet should have been hidden under the globe model. Nothing was hidden. One of the common objections I hear is that all of these tests were conducted over water. Well, duh, water is flat and you don't have ground obstructions. But the next two tests by Grota 1 were conducted over ice. In this first test, Grota 1 drove a snowmobile 7.5 miles while he maintained a visual with the distant laser. Here's the laser from 7.5 miles away. This is over frozen, solid ice. Based on an adjusted laser height of 2.4 feet, over 21 feet should have been hidden. Instead, Grota 1 filmed the laser hitting his hand and on the ice at his feet. Here he is filming the source of the laser with his camera only 10 inches off of the ice. In this next test, Grota 1 sets a camera on the frozen lake at a height of 8 inches and then drove 7.4 miles away where he placed a mirror down on the frozen lake at a height of 14 inches. He didn't zoom in so that he could maintain the clock in view and synchronize the mirror. Based on the 8-inch observation height of the camera, 25 feet should have been hidden below the horizon, and you can see the tiny mirror flash at only a height of 14 inches. Regardless of the conditions, the globe math fails repeatedly. There are dozens of globe-defying photographs on the Beyond Horizons website. Here's the record photograph of Pic Gaspard at a distance of 275 miles or 443 kilometers. According to the globe model, with an observation height of 9,272 feet, the very top of Pic Gaspard at 12,730 feet should have been hidden 3,772 feet below the horizon. That's the top. Here's another one. This photograph was taken at a distance of 254 miles at an elevation of 9,354 feet on top of Neufons. He photographed Tête de l'Estrop at sunrise. The peak has an elevation of 9,715 feet. Under the globe math, 12,160 feet should have been hidden. Therefore, the top of the distant peak should have been 2,445 feet below the horizon. There are hundreds of more observations and experiments. Just look at the distance of this ship in this clip from Finland by Velo 42. If you look closely, there's a huge ship that's further away and barely visible. The entire boat in the front should be hidden, and yet you can see the horizon beyond the boat. A huge impossibility for the globe. Look at this photograph of this lighthouse, also in Finland. 76 feet should be hidden, and none of it is. Without question, we see too far. The globe math doesn't hold up at all. Probably the main objection to the flat Earth is that NASA and other so-called space agencies have supposedly taken photos of Earth from space. If you have enough sense to realize that this was not a spaceship, that these actors did indeed hang from wires, and that this was not filmed on the moon, but on a Hollywood set in front of 1960s movie backdrops, then you already know that the Apollo pictures of the Earth from space are phony. Regardless, this is supposedly the last photograph from the Apollo missions taken in December 1972. When you look closely, you can tell it's a painting. I do want to thank Math Powerland for exposing NASA's use of hyper-realist space art. In this NASA article, NASA admitted that no photographs were taken of the Earth from space from 1972 until 2015, and that this 2002 blue marble image that you're looking at was created by NASA employee Robert Simon. Yes, this image is an emitted phony creation from Robert Simon. We gotta love Robert Simon, who brought us this gem.
It is photoshopped, but it's has to be.
As Simon stated in this NASA article, then we wrapped the flat map around a ball. My part was integrating the surface clouds and oceans to match people's expectations of how Earth looks from space. That ball became the famous blue marble. So, a NASA employee created a propaganda image of a fake globe to match what you think it looks like using a flat map and computer graphics that looks just as real as any other images from NASA. Be sure to note that a flat map is accurate enough for NASA. But here's the first alleged photograph of the Earth from space in 43 years, taken supposedly in July 2015. When you look closely, you can see what appears to be the word sex spelled in the clouds. At least that's what I thought just a month ago. But now I think it's more sinister. In Revelation 13, verse 18, we're introduced to the mark of the beast, and its number is 666. Here are various Greek translations of 666. It looks like the word sex upside down. Now compare the Greek 666 to the alleged July 2015 NASA photographs. The first photograph in 43 years has either the word sex or a Greek 666 in the clouds. Evil Satan worshippers or perverts at NASA, you decide, but either way, it's damning to NASA. What about satellites? Why are space satellites even necessary when NASA and its subsidiaries have hundreds and possibly thousands of these so-called space balloons? Look at this crash one from Samsung. They called it a space selfie, even though it was attached to a balloon. Here's a list from NASA of hundreds of satellite balloons launched by NASA. Notice that a handful of them were identified as Mir components. There's your Russian Mir space station. Until a few years ago, when Flat Earth exploded, no one spoke of these satellite balloons. This balloon supposedly went into orbit. Most people I talk to even now about this have never seen these satellite balloons. Now we know what Roswell was. For decades, there has been a deliberate whitewash of these balloon satellites, evincing that they are lying about space satellites. Space satellites aren't necessary when you can accomplish the same with these much cheaper balloon satellites. These high-altitude balloons can carry 8,000 pounds and include telescopes, radar equipment, communications equipment, internet, etc. There's a GoFundMe project. Start the first space hotel held up by weather balloons. This 2-ton balloon satellite, yes, they did call it a satellite, almost killed onlookers. It had cutting-edge NASA telescopes on board. Have you ever heard of a telescope mounted on a high-altitude balloon? I hadn't. Where are the images from these balloon telescopes? Moreover, it is hardly ever mentioned that almost all of our alleged communications come from undersea cables and cell towers, not supposed satellites in space, and the rest of those are held by balloons. Finally, look at these actual NASA videos of space satellites. They are manifestly fake. Look at this one that was launched during a space shuttle mission. It's dangling from a wire. Don't be a moron. That video alone proves they are faking space. The Antarctic Treaty is one of the biggest proofs that they are hiding something huge about our plane from we the people. This is a fact that you can look up yourself. Independent travel is not allowed below the 60th south parallel. The Antarctic Treaty, its handbook, and its enforcement protocols, which have remained inviolate for 60 years and include signatories like the United States, North Korea, China, and the former Soviet Union, and now Russia, essentially ban any reasonable attempt to explore below the 60th south parallel under the guise of protecting the environment. They may allow limited excursions to a few tourist points, but independent travel is not allowed, and that's shocking. Think of what has happened in the last 60 years. The Antarctic Treaty survived Vietnam and all of the Cold War, despite the claim that Antarctica is rich in minerals, including coal, oil, and uranium. Were the Soviets really interested in protecting penguins and the environment? It's ludicrous. Antarctica is the one place that would prove the flat Earth, and it just so happens that independent travel isn't allowed below the 60th south parallel. And all major nations agreed to this one principle of keeping you out. Are you now starting to see that international relations aren't what we were told? This video by Flat Earth LT shows some unbelievable infrared footage taken over Eastern Europe. At that altitude, the horizon should have been only 220 miles away. It appears as though Flat Earth LT was able to film across the Black Sea over a distance of 887 miles with a curvature hump that would be so substantial as to hide an object 56 miles tall. More importantly, there's absolutely no curvature present, and the horizon is at least 668 miles further than it should be. Watch the video though, because it looks like they even filmed the other side of the Caspian Sea that would have been roughly 1,500 miles away. Amazing. We already understand that the curvature of the Earth should drop away at 8 inches per mile squared, and the same should roughly apply to airplanes. At 500 miles per hour in 15 minutes, a pilot would have to make a curvature correction in the amount of roughly 10,400 feet. Pilots don't have to dip the nose of the airplane to correct for the curvature regardless of the speed or altitude of the airplane. Globe supporters will claim that it's gravity that is pulling the nose of the airplane down. The airplane is defying the alleged force of gravity, and yet gravity selectively grabs the nose of the airplane, not the whole airplane, but just the nose, to keep the plane level with the ground regardless of the speed or altitude of the airplane. Just like magical refraction, that's some wizard selective gravity you have there. Critics of Guglielmo Marconi said that it was impossible for Marconi to send a transatlantic transmission due to the curvature of the Earth. Here's an article pointing out that fact. Proving them wrong, Marconi received a radio transmission across the Atlantic Ocean at a distance of 2,135 miles. Under the globe model, there would be a curvature drop of 527 miles over that distance. The Knickebein targeting system was a VHF, that's very high-frequency radio targeting system used by German bombers in World War II. Knickebein was an accurate line-of-sight targeting system and was able to pinpoint ground targets up to 443 miles away in England. The leading government science advisor for Churchill, Frederick Lindemann, refused to believe that there was such a beam due to the curvature of the Earth, as VHF beams don't even allegedly wrap around the curvature. In total contradiction to the globe, Lindemann was wrong, and lives were lost because of his mistaken belief in the curvature. The Knickebein system did exist, and the VHF line-of-sight targeting system would have been impossible on a globe. In order to make sense of Knickebein, Wikipedia claims that the VHF system remained within line of sight of the bombers. The claim is mathematically wrong. With a distance of 443 miles from Stolberg Hill, Germany, to Derby, England, 117,504 feet should have been hidden, and the German bombers only flew at 19,200 feet. At the equator, the ground is allegedly rotating at 1,037 miles per hour. Yet, Felix Baumgartner took a balloon up to 128,000 feet above the surface, and it took him 2.5 hours to get that high. So, if the ground is rotating at 1,037 miles per hour at the equator, then Felix Baumgartner should have landed in the Pacific Ocean. As you are aware, Felix didn't land in the Pacific Ocean. He actually landed 44 miles east of his launch site. That's against the supposed rotation and the wrong direction. Don't you think the rotation of the Earth should have affected Felix's jump in some manner? There is little air up at 128,000 feet, but somehow Felix's balloon magically sped up to keep up with the ground below it. Does that make any sense to you? Even if there is some purported movement of the air at the surface due to the ground's alleged rotation, that air cannot communicate that same motion to the air at higher altitudes, and especially cannot cause that air to speed up. The spinning globe is utter nonsense. There is no evidence that the atmosphere is attached like Velcro to a spinning ball, and the fact that we don't have a 1,000 mile per hour westerly wind proves the faith-based religion of heliocentrism false. In addition to proving the Earth was stationary, Felix Baumgartner proved that the horizon does indeed rise with the observer, an impossibility under the globe which should have a fixed, decreasing, tangible horizon. Here's the horizon line when Felix entered the capsule. Here's the horizon line at 128,000 feet. I did not alter the video. The horizon line didn't drop one iota, unequivocally disproving the globe. Professionals who should account for the curvature never actually do. Snipers, surveyors, pilots, civil engineers, military guys, none of them account for the curvature. Mark Sargent has a great series on his channel where he interviews airline pilots, military professionals, radar operators, gunners, missile operators, engineers, commercial surveyors, and many more, all stating that there is no accounting for the curvature or the Earth's rotation in any manner. The solar eclipse is a major proof of the flat Earth for two big reasons. First, the sun and the moon are the same apparent size. The sun is supposed to have a diameter 400 times larger than the moon, and yet the sun and the moon just happen to be the right distances to create the illusion of being the same size? Just think of how impossible that is under the heliocentric model. It is rubbish. Second, the moon is supposed to have a diameter of 2,159 miles, and yet the shadow of the moon is only 70 miles across the Earth's ground during a solar eclipse. That's a very simple proof that the heliocentric model is false. The lunar eclipse is very often raised as the key proof of the globe, but it fails under closer scrutiny. The biggest issue is the well-documented selenelion. A selenelion is where a lunar eclipse occurs when both the sun and the moon are both above the horizon, which means there is no alleged Earth between the sun and the moon that could cause a shadow on the moon. That's geometrically impossible. Again, the globe model fails. According to the heliocentric model, this Earth and its pressurized atmosphere are surrounded by a nearly endless vacuum that's more powerful than any vacuum that can be created here on Earth, and yet this vacuum is so weak that it can't remove our atmosphere. This is a fact. There's simply no possible way that an atmosphere can exist adjacent to a vacuum, and no one can prove otherwise. Nature abhors a vacuum, and the last time I checked, we're all still alive, and so you can dismiss the nonsense of space. I have presented a substantial amount of evidence proving that we've been lied to big time, but it takes a strong, independent mind to recognize and then set aside one's indoctrination. Unlike the globe propagandists, we flat earthers don't want you to believe or trust us. We don't believe in the flat earth. Please understand that. We tested whether the globe exists and found, based on the extensive amount of evidence that we've gathered, that there is no curvature, that there is no outer space, and heliocentrism is false. But we want you to figure that out for yourself. On the other hand, NASA and its spaniels, liars, parrots, and actors will never tell you to go out and measure the curvature yourself. They are scam artists and deceivers. They want you to be gullible and ignorant as though it's a virtue. Please reject the illusions, lies, and hypnosis. Break your mental shackles. Come out of the allegorical cave and your stupid fundamental heliocentric religion and conduct these experiments and test the globe yourself. Come up with new experiments and ideas. Share what you have. It's fun and it's exciting. Flat Earth is breaking the chains that bind humanity. We absolutely promote intellectual freedom and investigation. And we hope that a new breed of independently minded professionals, PhDs, and students will, in all humility, work together towards a true and objective grassroots scientific movement. I'm not embarrassed I'm a flat earther. I'm embarrassed it took me 40 years to see the truth that we live on a flat and stationary plane. Flat Earth comes with a big serving of humility. Based on experimentation, testing, and genuine reflection, we all came to realize that the Earth is flat and stationary, that outer space is fake, and that NASA lied. And that is huge, and that's enough for me to call you family. I very much love you all like my family. May our love, friendship, and addiction for truth never cease on this beautiful, flat, and stationary plane. God bless you all.
Then God said, "Let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters." Thus God made the firmament, and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament, and it was so. And God called the firmament heaven. So the evening and the morning were the second day. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heavens, to divide the day from the night, and to let them be for signs and seasons, and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the firmament of the heavens, to give light on the earth." And it was so. Then God made two great lights, the greater light to rule the day, and the lesser light to rule the night. He made the stars also. God set them in the firmament of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to rule over the day and over the night, and to divide the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. There you go. I think it's obvious that we do not live on a spinning space monkey ball Earth, hurtling through an ever-expanding gas-repellent vacuum universe. And here's, just to finish off with, here's a little video I knocked up a few months ago.
Well, let's begin at the beginning. Gas pressure, right? This is the single most devastating argument against the heliocentric spinning ball space monkey religion. Just gas pressure, that's it. It implodes the fallacy, model, right at its core. The best part, that's not the best part. An incoherent first grader can stand against the premier physicists of the world and defeat any assault within seconds in between iterations of Candy Crush. That's how great this argument is, right? And it's very easy. So let's begin. We'll start off with Elmhurst University with the kinetic molecular theory explanation of Boyle's gas law. Observations about pressure may be explained using the following ideas. The rapid motion and collisions of molecules with the walls of the container causes pressure, force on a unit area. Pressure is proportional to the number of molecular collisions and the force of the collisions in a particular area. The more collisions of gas molecules with the walls, the higher the pressure. We all know this. They said it. We know it. It's not a big deal. Everyone knows this. It's not a big secret, right? But let's go to Chem Libra and see what they have to say. Pressure is caused by gas molecules hitting the walls of the container. With a smaller volume, the gas molecules will hit the walls more frequently, and so the pressure increases. So the necessary antecedents that cause gas pressure are simply, number one, the rapid motion and collisions of molecules. Collisions with what? Well, the walls of the container. This is quite elementary. Take either number one or number two away, and you don't have gas pressure. It's just that simple. No amount of linguistic or mathematical acrobatics will change it. So say bye-bye now to your ball-tard spinning space monkey religion.
This world is not what you think it is. This world is not what you think it is.